Right, the last 2 points in the DBQ rubric is sourcing and complex understanding. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do this together because they really align with one another. So what you're required to do, according to the College Board, is to actually, now it's two, be able to source at least two documents, okay? Or and also to score the next point, getting complex understanding, which I'm going to talk about and together. So let's go ahead and first of all take a look at sourcing. Okay, so first of all, go to document 4. So go ahead and take a moment and reread document 4, which is on screen here, and either copy your summary from your work from before, or go ahead and reread and try to read through the summary. So take a moment right now, pause the video, and summarize this document. All right, coming back here, what you should be able to find is that this document is a little bit different than the other ones in regards to particularly the argument of the Mongols destroyed cities and left no mercy and whatever it might be here, because this one's a little bit different. So you, hopefully from your summary, you got the notion that this really does contradict the Mongols destroyed and historic urban centers and so forth here. So how so? You need to be able to, from this document here, be able to explain how this is different than the other pieces, which seems like it's very clearly talking about how the Mongols destroyed and so forth. Okay? So with this in mind here, in particular, if you are struggling, turn to a partner, go ahead and ask them what they think. If not, again, please take note of this last line right here. That should give you a clue in regards to what the Mongols did. In the end, that's very different than what we see elsewhere. And then from there, this is the key part here. How would you now modify your argument or interpretation? So yes, the Mongols in the end did destroy a lot of cities and so forth here. But again, explain now how you might modify that argument based on this particular document. Okay? So with that, if you need some help here, go back to our third excerpt. This is found in Google Classroom if it's not in your Google document, but this is the background for the document that you just evaluated and analyzed. So go ahead and spend some time, go ahead and fill out based on this right here and the document, how this might contradict the argument that the Mongols made, and what you might have to do in order to modify your argument, change it so that it addresses both the destruction and also what happened in this document. Okay, so pause the video now and before we continue. All right, coming on back, let's go ahead and we're gonna and previously, if you didn't kind of get the gist here, what we had just done is we sourced document number 4, looking at the background here. So you're able to explain this, you're discussing the occasion, and you're sourcing the document in this way. Again, sourcing a document through occasion is going to be my recommended way for evaluating documents. But there's another way to do it, not just evaluating the documents and sourcing the document and finding this complex understanding through, in this case, modifying the argument, which we'll talk about later on too. We can do this also with document number 7 as well. So if you take a look at document 7, most of you guys probably use this to demonstrate, hey, you know what? It looks like the Mongols are sieging the city and they're going to eventually sack and destroy Baghdad and destroy the House of Wisdom and the libraries and so forth, which we had mentioned before here. Okay, so if you're looking at this, you're like, okay, great, that's evidence, that's good evidence here as well. But if you look really closely at this document here, right, and really thinking about what sacking a city might look like, okay, and if you're looking really closely, yeah, you get some combat, right? You have some, trebuchets, and you've got cavalrymen, and you've got some people fighting, but there's no spilling of blood. There are people that look like they're hiding and so forth, and that's it, right? This is very different than what you would think in regards to massive full destruction. So if you're taking a look at who the author is, and particularly the Persians in the 15th century. What's their purpose? How are they going to see what is to be remembered from the sack of Baghdad in this case here, without, again, noting that, look, a lot of stuff was destroyed and a lot of people were killed. We don't know the exact number. But what might this mean? What's the purpose for the particular audience by the 15th century, right? And I'll give you a hint, I'll give you a clue here. Think about who is ruling over the Middle East by the 15th century, right? And particularly many of these are, think about the khanates that we had discussed before. So with that and using that clue, you can use that to demonstrate once again that the purpose may be to show that the Mongols were not as destructive and murderers like many of others seen here have seen. So with that, you can from there do the exact same thing in regards to say, hey, what does this mean about the Mongols? And does it mean we have to alter our interpretation of what the Mongols did, or at least talk about the nuance of Mongol rule over Eurasia, that it wasn't just simply death and destruction. So with that, all of this discussion may occur, one, as you source the documents, right? So if you're talking about this here, so maybe you source the Novgorod document here, and then you source document number 7 on the sack of Baghdad. All this is going to allow you at the end to say, look, yes, the Mongols destroyed a lot of cities, but, and that but may be a discussion on how they might not have been as destructive as before, or maybe once the destruction happened, then other strategies were used. So all of this deals with discussing consequences, discusses complexity to the documents, and maybe even the need to modify the documents. And so place whatever you can figure out into these blue squares, into these blue boxes. Now, this part is not required in your outline. So if you have trouble doing this, that's fine. But do as much of these as possible. Leave them blank if you need to. But if you can, again, this is the higher bar. If you're able to try it, please go ahead and try this. Which leads us to a second way to do complexity. So we've just talked about the ability to say, for example, one of your arguments is the Mongols destroyed stuff, right? And we talked about, especially with document number 4, an alteration that you might make in regards to the argument that you might make, a modification of your argument. So say, for instance, you have this case, look, people, the Mongols destroyed a lot of cities. And so what you can do is you can restate your thesis to create and to provide a concession. So while the Mongols did destroy a lot of cities, now provide the concession of other things that they did that might demonstrate that they were not as destructive as what many authors might seem. And then what you would provide is a rebuttal. However, the Mongols did, and you fill in the blank, right? So now you reinforce with a much stronger argument before. So basically take this argument, and then strengthen it here, to deal with the concession that you made, and then provide any final conclusions, comparisons, and so forth. So, but basically what this does is that it addresses some counter arguments that someone else might make, and then you will provide a strong rebuttal to try to solidify your argument in the end here. So again, this is a second way to do so, as a means to demonstrate the complexity of historical thought. And that is complexity. There's a few other ways to do this. We'll talk about it in class as well.